The rain pelts down on a dimly lit city street, each drop a tiny hammer against the asphalt. Sarah, a 42-year-old marketing executive, sits in her car, the engine off, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles are white. The radio hums faintly, but she doesn't hear it. Her mind is a whirlwind: deadlines, meetings, a strained marriage, and 2 teenage kids who seem to live in a world she can't reach. She's successful by every metric society celebrates: a corner office, a 6-figure salary, a house in the suburbs. Yet tonight, parked outside her own home, she feels like a stranger in her own life. "Why does it feel like I'm failing?" she whispers to herself, her breath fogging the window. The question hangs in the air, unanswered, heavy with the weight of years spent chasing goals that no longer feel like hers. She's not alone in this. Across the world, millions of people in their 40s and beyond are grappling with the same disquieting, gnawing sense that the life they've built, the person they've become, isn't quite them. It's a tension that feels like a storm brewing inside, ready to upend everything. This is the midlife awakening, and it's not a crisis, it's a calling. Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers in psychology, saw this moment not as a breakdown, but as a breakthrough. He believed the first 40 years of your life are just practice, a rehearsal for the real work of becoming who you were always meant to be. In this script, we'll explore Jung's revolutionary ideas about the shadow, individuation, and the transformation of midlife, weaving them into a story that resonates with anyone who's ever felt lost in their own success. Through Sarah's journey, we'll uncover why this moment of unrest is the key to unlocking a life of authenticity and purpose. Sarah's life wasn't always this heavy. Rewind 20 years, and she was a bright-eyed college graduate, full of ambition and dreams. She wanted to write novels, travel the world, live a life of creativity and freedom. But the world had other plans. Get a stable job, her parents urged. Be practical, her professors advised. So she did. She climbed the corporate ladder, married her college sweetheart, had kids, and bought the house with the white picket fence. She built a persona mask Jung described as the face we show the world to fit in, to be accepted, to survive. Jung argued that in the first half of life, we're consumed with constructing this persona. It's a necessary adaptation, a way to navigate society's expectations. Get an education, build a career, start a family. For Sarah, her persona was the successful career woman, polished, efficient, always in control. But personas come at a cost. They suppress parts of ourselves that don't fit the mold. Parts Jung called the shadow, the hidden, often uncomfortable aspects of our personality we deny or ignore. Sarah's shadow was her creativity, her spontaneity, her desire for adventure. Every time she silenced her urge to write, to take a risk, to break free from routine, she buried a piece of herself. Over time, those buried pieces began to stir, whispering questions she couldn't ignore. Is this all there is? What happened to the person I used to be? Jung believed these questions signal the start of a profound shift, a moment when the psyche demands integration. The midlife awakening isn't about falling apart. It's about waking up to the parts of yourself you've left behind. Imagine a house with a locked room. No one ever enters. For years, you walk past it, pretending it doesn't exist. You decorate the rest of the house beautifully, hosting parties, earning praise for your perfect home. But deep down, you know the locked room is there, filled with things you've hidden: old dreams, forgotten passions, fears you didn't want to face. One day, the door starts to creak open on its own, and you can't ignore it anymore. You have 2 choices: barricade it shut and live with the unease, or step inside and face what's waiting. This is the midlife awakening, Jung's call to confront the shadow. For Sarah, the locked room holds her unwritten novels, her longing for freedom, her suppressed anger at a life that feels scripted. The storm inside her is the sound of that door creaking open, demanding she pay attention. Back in the car, Sarah's phone buzzes with a text from her boss. "Need you in early tomorrow." Big presentation. She stares at the screen, her chest tightening. The thought of another day in the office feels suffocating. She loves her jobber, at least she used to. Now, it feels like a performance she's too tired to keep up. She drives home, but the unease follows her. That night, she dreams of a dark forest. A figure cloaked in shadow stands at the edge, beckoning her. She wakes with a start, her heart racing. The dream feels significant, but she doesn't know why. Jung would say it's her shadow calling, the unconscious part of her psyche that holds everything she's rejected. The shadow isn't evil, though it can feel frightening. It's simply the parts of ourselves we've deemed unacceptable or anger, our vulnerability, our unfulfilled desires. For Sarah, the shadow manifests in small rebellions. She snaps at her husband over a minor disagreement, surprising herself with the intensity of her anger. She finds herself doodling in the margins of her meeting notes, sketching scenes from a story she hasn't thought about in years. She feels restless, irritable, alive in a way she hasn't in decades. Jung called this the confrontation with the shadow, a necessary step in the process of individuation, the lifelong journey toward wholeness, where we integrate all parts of ourselves, light and dark, to become our true selves. Individuation isn't about perfection, it's about authenticity. Jung believed that midlife is the pivotal moment for this work because the first half of life is spent building the ego or conscious identity, our persona, while the second half is about transcending it. The ego wants safety, status, control. The self, Jung's term for the totality of the psyche, wants truth, meaning, connection. For Sarah, individuation means facing the parts of herself she's ignored, her creativity, her need for freedom, her suppressed emotions. In a medieval village, a knight is hailed as a hero for slaying dragons. Each victory strengthens his armor, his reputation, his pride. But one day, he encounters a dragon unlike any other. It doesn't attack, it simply watches him, its eyes reflecting his own face. The knight raises his sword, but the dragon doesn't flinch. Confused, he lowers his weapon and steps closer. In the dragon's gaze, he sees his own fears, his doubts, his hidden dreams. To fight the dragon would be to fight himself. Instead, he sits with it, listening to its silent truths. In that moment, he becomes more than a hero, becomes whole. This is the work of individuation, the courage to face the shadow, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. For Sarah, the dragon is her restlessness, her anger, her buried dreams. She can't slay it. She must learn from it. Sarah's turning point comes unexpectedly. At a company retreat, she's paired with a colleague, Maya, a free-spirited graphic designer who seems to live without the constraints Sarah feels. Over coffee, Maya shares her story. She left a high-powered job in her 30s to pursue art, a decision that felt terrifying but liberating. "I was so afraid of failing," Maya says, "but I was more afraid of waking up at 50 and realizing I'd lived someone else's life." Maya's words hit Sarah like a lightning bolt. She sees herself in that fear, the fear of letting go of the persona she spent decades building. That night, she journals for the first time in years, pouring out her frustrations, her dreams, her regrets. She writes about the novels she never wrote, the trips she never took, the parts of herself she's hidden to be responsible. It's painful, but it's also freeing. She's beginning to meet her shadow, to listen to its whispers. Jung believed that confronting the shadow requires active imagination, a process where we engage with the unconscious through dreams, writing, art, or dialogue. Sarah's journaling is her first step. She starts to notice patterns. Her anger isn't just about her husband or her job. It's about the life she didn't choose. Her restlessness isn't a flaw. It's a signal that her psyche is ready for change. Over the next few weeks, Sarah experiments with small acts of courage. She signs up for a writing workshop, something she hasn't done since college. She talks openly with her husband about her feelings, risking vulnerability. She spends more time with her kids, not as the perfect mom, but as herself, sharing stories of her own dreams. Each step feels like reclaiming a piece of her soul. A traveler comes to a river too wide to cross. On the other side lies a land of beauty and promise, but the current is strong and the water is deep. For years, the traveler builds a boat, carefully crafting it to be sturdy, safe, perfect. But the boat grows heavy, too big to launch. One day, a child appears, skipping stones across the river. "Why don't you just swim?" the child asks. The traveler hesitates, afraid of the cold, the current, the unknown. But the child's question lingers. Finally, the traveler steps into the water, feeling the shock of the cold, the pull of the current. With each stroke, they feel lighter, stronger. The other shore was never as far as it seemed. This is the midlife crossing, the shift from clinging to the persona to embracing the self. For Sarah, swimming means letting go of the need to be perfect, to be safe, to be what others expect. It's terrifying, but it's also exhilarating. As months pass, Sarah's life begins to change a note in dramatic, cinematic ways, but in quiet, meaningful ones. She doesn't quit her job, but she negotiates a more flexible schedule, carving out time for writing. Her novel is far from finished, but the act of writing feels like coming home. Her marriage, once strained, grows stronger as she and her husband communicate with new honesty. Her kids, sensing her authenticity, open up in ways they never did before. Jung called this phase of individuation integration, where the shadow and the persona find balance, allowing the self to emerge. The self isn't a destination, it's a process, a lifelong journey of becoming. For Sarah, integration means accepting that she can be both a career woman and a dreamer, both responsible and free, both flawed and whole. Jung's concept of the animus also plays a role here. The anima, for men, and animus, for women, represent the contrasexual aspects of the psyche, the inner feminine or masculine that balances our conscious identity. For Sarah, her animus, her inner drive, her assertiveness had been channeled into her career, but it was rigid, disconnected from her heart. By embracing her creativity and vulnerability, she's integrating her animus in a healthier way, finding a new kind of strength. An alchemist toils in their workshop, seeking the philosopher's stone, the key to transforming lead into gold. They mix potions, study ancient texts, but nothing works. One night, exhausted, they fall asleep by the fire. In their dream, the fire speaks. "You seek the stone, but the stone is you. Burn away what is false, and you will find the gold within." The alchemist wakes, throws their notes into the fire, and watches them burn. In the ashes, they see their own reflection, not as they wish to be, but as they are. And in that moment, they understand. The gold was always there. This is the alchemy of midlife, the transformation Jung described as individuation. For Sarah, the fire is her willingness to let go of the false self, to burn away the persona and embrace the gold of her true self. Sarah's story isn't unique. Across the world, people in their 40s, 50s, and beyond are hearing the same call, the call to wake up, to integrate, to become. Jung's wisdom offers a roadmap for this journey, not just for Sarah, but for all of us. The midlife awakening isn't a crisis. It's an opportunity, a chance to shed the masks we've worn and step into the life we were meant to live. Here are the practical lessons we can draw from Jung's philosophy, grounded in Sarah's transformation. 1. Listen to the unrest, the restlessness, the dissatisfaction. The questions, these are not signs of failure, but signals from your psyche. Pay attention to them. Journal, reflect, or talk to a trusted friend or therapist. What is your shadow trying to tell you? 2. Face the shadow. The shadow holds your hidden dreams, your suppressed emotions, your unacknowledged fears. Engage with it through active imagination. Write, draw, dream, or meditate. Ask yourself, What parts of me have I ignored? What do I fear admitting about myself? 3. Take small steps. Individuation doesn't require dramatic overhaul. Like Sarah, start with small acts of courage, a new hobby, an honest conversation, a moment of vulnerability. Each step brings you closer to your true self. 4. Embrace the process. There's no finish line in individuation. It's a lifelong journey of growth, balance, and discovery. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate the moments when you feel whole, and trust that the work is worth it. 5. Share your gift. Jung believed that individuation isn't just for ourselves, but for the world. As you integrate your shadow and embrace yourself, you bring authenticity, compassion, and wisdom to those around you. Sarah's openness inspired her family. Your journey can inspire others. The rain has stopped. Sarah stands in her backyard, the morning sun breaking through the clouds. She holds a notebook, its pages filled with her words, her dreams, her truth. She's not the same woman who sat in her car months ago, gripped by fear and doubt. She's not perfect, but she's wholer. At least, she's on her way. She smiles, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face, and whispers to herself, "This is just the beginning." Jung's wisdom reminds us that the first 40 years are practice, a rehearsal for the real work of living authentically. Midlife is not the end of the story, but the start of a new chapter, one where we can finally become who we were always meant to be. So, the next time you feel the storm brewing inside, don't run from it. Step into it, listen to it, let it guide you home.